Hey guys, happy Snowy Friday. Big goal here. I will try to finish this in under 10 minutes. Okay, so moving along, week 3. Please review this. We are moving into Unit 2. Main thing I want to emphasize, I've made a change. The MC2 final draft due date has been extended to Monday, February 7th at noon. I'm just giving you a little extra time. Clicking in. There's an overview of week 3 here. We've moved to Unit 2. We're going to be on this for several weeks, and we're going to work on researching and compare contrast composition. Want you to look over inquiry. We'll talk more about inquiry as we go on, but really inquiry is, as you begin research, what you're really trying to do is you're trying to take what you already know, and then observing and recording here, according to George Hillocks, and noting language, right? And highlighting the language, looking for the keywords in the text, and making note of that, making annotations, making notes in your notebook. You want to be questioning things, right? As you learn new information, you want to compare it to what you already know. And so you're questioning, comparing, and contrasting. As you question, compare, contrast, you're going to build a new schema in your brain, right? Like you used to know something about COVID, you now have a new information about COVID, and you're also you're going to write a compare, contrast paper about pandemics. And so even just the act of having to do a compare, contrast makes you create this kind of logical thing, right? That creates something new that didn't exist in your head before, a new idea. And you're going to make your tentative hypothesis. That's your thesis. A thesis is always tentative. It's never finished. It's always a rough draft until you turn your paper in, your final draft. You can always change your thesis. You want to develop it and let it grow. And then you're going to be testing and evaluating that thesis or hypothesis in light of additional data and competing hypotheses. That's kind of the writing process. And then Hillocks talks about imagining being really important to writing, and I'd ask you to think about that. If you start to write your paper and you get it done in X number of hours the night before it's due and turn it in, you didn't have any time to let that paper sit in your brain for a day or two to sleep on it. Where your brain really does work on these topics, if I'm writing something and I have time to let it wait for a couple days, I usually develop some new ideas about it and make some nice revisions, you know? So you always want to allow that imagining thing to happen because you'll make new connections with it. So your first assignment that is due on Tuesday at noon exists within this folder. That's why it's red. Pretty much this whole folder is about quoting, paraphrasing, and summarizing. You're going to click through. This is a Google Doc that I created. It has links to Purdue OWL in it. It gives an overview of it. It talks about quoting, paraphrasing, summarizing. It even gives exercises. I'm not going to ever know if you did this. I really think you need to look these over, try to read them. And this is a great resource. Surely be familiar with these so you can go back to them as you need them. You're then going to read an article. What you learned in preschool is crucial at work. I think it's really relevant to you guys as you think about what kind of jobs you're going to do, how you learn to do those jobs, what they're going to look like. Uh-oh. So you can't look at it too many times or you hit the paywall. It's best to look at this online. I'm not logged in right now, and I'm not going to do it while I do this. But this article is good. If you do hit the paywall, email me, and I'll send you a PDF of it. But the article itself is interactive. So you're going to want to read that article. You're then going to have to submit worksheet. Okay, this is the worksheet. The worksheet is very straightforward in my opinion. It's a Google Doc. You're going to do the whole file, make a copy thing. You're going to talk about source credibility here within the article, answer a couple questions. You're going to practice paraphrasing, quoting, doing a summary. And that's pretty much it. So pretty much you have to read this Purdue OWL stuff to make sure you're familiar with the techniques that we're looking at for quoting and paraphrasing. In order to complete this worksheet, you submit it right here. And if you click on it, it tells you when it's due, Tuesday, Feb 1, right? Very good. So backing it up and moving right along. Okay, now we're on to a kind of new topic for the week. I'm going to have you read 4 texts about pandemics, and you're preparing for, here's the prompt for the compare-contrast essay that I will assign in week 4. You're going to write just one strong paragraph in which you use compare-contrast analysis to make a point about a pandemic or some issue to do with pandemics. So that is definitely something you want to think about as you read these articles. I'd read the rest of this. I suggest things. If you click on the articles, one is from the BBC. So this BBC one is updated every couple of days or every week. Last updated 4 weeks ago. It's an interactive thing. So for example, if you can click on cases, you can click on deaths. It changes, right? And so we can see, oh my gosh, there are 862 deaths in the US. In Spain, they have 91,741. You can go down here and organize this data here by deaths, country, death rate, total cases. So the whole thing's like that. Look it over, and it's really a neat presentation of information. This is an article about the 1918 flu pandemic. Just read it. Note when it was published. It was published in September, October 2018. So it was actually written before we even knew we were going to have our own personal pandemic. This is from the Peoria Journal-Star. So I'm introducing you to all kinds of different types of media sources, right? Page 1 from the PJ Star, August 2020. That's like just half a year into the pandemic. Just read this article. And I know it's a little old, but I think it's useful for you guys to remember how we thought about this way back when, a year and a half ago, before there were any vaccines or anything. And then finally, The Economist is also from Britain, like the BBC website is. It's a kind of journal magazine that focuses on the economy and world events. And it's just about kids, and it kind of reminds you of how we were trying to figure out how to struggle with COVID and kids in school. So read those, maybe make some notes. Remember that as you read these, you're going to be writing a works cited for these, and then next week you'll be in week 4, you will be writing an essay using them. Then cruising along, this is just, it's a web link. And it's just a good review of how compare-contrast papers work. So I looked that over to try to get an understanding of that. It gives you lots of different ideas. It's really a great little article. And then you should read Chapter 7 of our textbook. And I give a little explanation here. It covers plagiarism, which is extremely important because you don't want to plagiarize. You can always review my policy on plagiarism in the syllabus. And then it covers MLA style. At the end of Chapter 7, it actually has a lot of the rules for MLA style if you want to use it. This is a video about MLA style. We're actually on MLA style 9th edition. This is for the 8th edition, but the first 3 minutes of this are fantastic and really give you a great understanding of how MLA style works. I'd watch it for sure, the first 3 minutes at least. This is a link to Purdue OWL MLA formatting. It's another way to learn how MLA works. I've got you going to the landing page, the main page. It gives you an overview here, but it gives you a ton of information on the side panel that, just you can see it. So check it out, please. Then this is where you submit this. You're going to have to write a works cited of the 4 pandemic articles that are in this folder. And I give very specific directions on how to do this works cited, and it needs to be an MLA works cited. I'm going to add a little discussion board right here in about 5 minutes. I'm going to ask you to brainstorm about what you might do a compare-contrast paper on for COVID to get the juices flowing before you head into the weekend, so that next week when you have to start writing, you've already thought about it and developed some ideas. You're not married to your ideas. It's just a brainstorming thing, right? A pre-writing activity. Here's where you can submit MC2 final draft. It goes here. I'm leaving it here in this week in case you want to submit now. At the end of next week, I'll move it to the next week to week 4, because it's not actually due till Monday, February 7th at noon. If you have any questions, please email me. Bye-bye.